What are you looking at? Okay, yes, I got tired of carrying my gear around in a haversack, but so what? At least this is more comfortable. Hi everybody, welcome back to Flintlock Operator. You know, if you've been in reenacting for any amount of time, there's a good chance that you've carried around your gear in an 18th century manner. And there's a good chance that when you've carried it around, you've been uncomfortable. Whether you portray a civilian, soldier, or a long hunter, there's a good chance that any time that you try and carry your gear around, it's uncomfortable and it's difficult and it hurts your shoulders. And unfortunately, in my experience, there's not really anything we could do to make carrying 18th century gear around be as comfortable as carrying it in a modern pack like this Mystery Ranch pack. But there are some options and practices we can employ that can make carrying our gear around in an 18th century manner more comfortable. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the different options that were available to 18th century people. And we're going to be talking about the best ways to carry those packs around and haul our gear around, whether you're a long hunter, civilian, or soldier. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to have fun today. All right, before we go any further, let's get this pack off. Off with the new and on with the old. Be gone, foul new technology. As Ethan Yezel would say, breech loading is a sin. And apparently everything else is associated with it, so poo-poo modern day pack. All right, now I'd like to say something before we get really started into this video. All of these pack systems I have tons of miles on. The knapsack I probably literally have hundreds of miles with. Not this specific knapsack, but just the system. I've had 4 or 5 ones that I've made over the years. The knapsack I have a lot of experience with. The haversack I have a lot of experience with. The bedroll, yes, lots of experience, lots of miles. The only one that I don't have a whole lot of experience with is the snapsack. But a few days ago I made one, and I've put about 12 to 15 miles with that snapsack on so far. And I think I have a pretty good idea of how it feels on me and the best ways that you can carry it around. So I just wanted to say that I'm speaking from experience here, but I'm always open to new ways and to learn new things, new methods, new tips, new tricks. So if y'all have any of that, go ahead and drop it down in the comments. I'd love to hear from y'all. One more thing, we're going to be working with what we would normally carry around with us. So I've got a belt knife, powder horn and shot pouch, and tomahawk. This tomahawk can go in several different places. So really, we're working with this. We don't really want to change any of this up because these are our weapons, and we always want our weapons and our weapon accoutrements to be relatively in the same spot so we can reach them in a pinch. The first bag we're going to be talking about today is the old trusty haversack. From what I understand, haversacks were more of a military bag that soldiers would carry around. And as I understand it in the documentation, not as many civilians carried these around. But they do work, they work very well. And I'll show you how to wear it. So a lot of times you might see these things slung straight on the side and maybe hanging down below your waist or by the knees. In my opinion, that's not a good way of carrying it. It gets in the way. You might think, yeah, I can get to everything really easily. But it gets in the way if you're walking or climbing or doing anything action-oriented. It's going to immediately swing around to the front. So the way that you wear this is on the back. And believe it or not, it actually stays there relatively well. Occasionally, it'll swing around to the front a little bit and you got to readjust, but it's not that bad. So this is the way that you carry the haversack. It's very simple. It stays completely out of the way and it's rather comfortable. And you can carry about 5 to 10 pounds in it without it being uncomfortable. If you're going to be carrying around a canteen, same thing. Going to throw it on and notice that it almost rides high up and on top of the haversack. And I can actually still get to the canteen. I can swing it around without swinging the haversack all the way around. And I can take a drink from it. So this is going to be the way that you're going to want to carry your haversack and canteen around. On your back, nice and high and tight, where you can still get to everything, swing it around, but where it's not swinging around with every single step you take. The next pack that we're going to be looking at is the knapsack. The knapsack is a backpack, and it is by far the most comfortable way of carrying around gear in an 18th century manner. We've got these nice wide fabric straps, and man, this is way better than a haversack, way better than a knapsack, way better than a bedroll. But where you start running into issues with the knapsack is when you start adding more clothing, more food, and more blankets to it. So in this configuration where I've only got one blanket, it's very, very comfortable. But if I were to add another blanket, more food, a little bit more gear, some spare clothing, it's gonna start to get really heavy really, really quickly. So if we are gonna use the knapsack, we're gonna wanna strategically place our gear. We can put another blanket below, we can put another blanket suspended from the straps. But what we don't wanna do is build out bulk behind us, because that's gonna pull our backs back. It's going to be uncomfortable on our shoulders, it's going to hurt our low back, and it's just not going to be an enjoyable time. The other downside I've found to the knapsack is it is very bulky, and even though it doesn't take up a lot of room in the front of me, if I want to carry around any extra gear, extra weapons, it starts to kind of get in the way because of its bulkiness. But that might be a good trade-off, because this is, as I said, the most comfortable way of carrying around gear in an 18th century manner. So knapsack, there's a lot of different patterns of it. This one's kind of a hybrid of several different 18th century examples. But experiment and figure out which models and which patterns work best for you and your context with the gear you carry. The next bag we're going to be talking about is the wallet, and this type of bag is exceptionally common for civilian carry. All it is just like a double-ended pillowcase. It's got a slit in the middle right here, and you can put items on either side. Very, very simple, very common. If you're going to have a civilian impression, this is going to be basically your go-to standard way of carrying around your gear. And all you do is just sling it over your shoulder like this, like a hobo, and on you go on your merry way. Now, wallets could come in several different sizes. We've got a big one here, and we've also got a little small one that we can carry on our belt. I just carry little personal items on this. So like we said, throw it over your shoulder, go on your merry way. But if you're wearing a knapsack, let me show you a trick that I came up with some years ago. Bing, bang, boom. See? You throw it over the back of the pack. Yeah, it's a little bit bulkier, but it beats having to sling it over your shoulder. Now, I've carried around wallets in this manner for quite a long time, and even though it does pull on your shoulders a little bit, it sure beats having to just haul it around on one shoulder. And let me show you another cool thing. So let's say you've got your modern day pack on and you've got a little bit of extra gear that you want to carry around. There we go. No problem. Now, most modern day backpacking packs have a waist belt on it, so if you wanted to pull that out, that's going to distribute this weight even more. So you can use the old and the new technology simultaneously, and if you empty this out, it makes a great pillow. The next pack that we're going to look at is the snapsack. And as you can see, the snapsack is like the haversack, a bag that goes over one shoulder. It's basically just a tube of cloth with a drawstring at the top, and it just goes over like that. Now, in my experience so far, the snapsack is far more comfortable than a haversack. And remember, just like with the other pieces of gear, you want it to be pulled up nice and high on your back. The lower you have it slung on your body, the more it's going to get in the way, it's going to sling around, and it's just not going to be as comfortable. So one thing I like about the snapsack is we can kind of choose where the strap rides on our shoulder. We can have it right up higher, up on the muscle, or on the shoulder bone. So it gives you just a little bit of variety, but it's not going anywhere, it's not slipping, and it's still comfortable. Now, I know I just said you want to wear your gear all high and tight on your back. Let me show you a way that you can actually break that rule and carry more gear. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our buckle, set it at the lowest setting it can go. Now, it's real loosey-goosey. It's real low, but it'll allow you to carry a bedroll. So now that the snapsack is out of the way, it allows us to carry around our bedroll. So as you can see, since the snapsack is dropped down a little bit lower, it allows the bedroll to rest higher up on your back. Now, this is a lot of stress on one shoulder. So what I would recommend doing is taking off your hat and wearing it like this. in tump line fashion. So we've got our tump line here, and it's on kind of our foreheads, the forward top of the head. And I walked about 5 miles like this yesterday with almost this exact configuration, and it was actually pretty comfortable. It was the first time I'd actually carried a bedroll in this fashion, and my neck really wasn't even that sore. But people have been using tump lines this way for hundreds or thousands of years. So this is a really good way of carrying your bedroll around, not just with the snapsack, but also with the haversack and the knapsack as well. And last but not least, let's talk about the bedroll. As you can see, I actually have 2 rolls in one. So I have my big queen size wool blanket, and I have a twin size wool blanket inside of my 5x7 oilcloth tarp. Now, the reason I didn't roll these all up together is, again, I don't want the bulk to be that wide. And as you see, when suspended, it's longer than it is wide. So one of the things I've figured out over the years is a really thick bedroll is really uncomfortable to wear. And if the bedroll ties are on the outside rather than running through the center, it's even worse. You've got that entire thickness of the bedroll just pulling down on your back. So in my experience and in my opinion, I like doing it this way much, much better. So I try and keep my bedrolls as thin as possible. And if I want to add more gear, I'm going to add a little bit more to the bottom. So this is the way I like to carry my bedrolls, not all rolled up into one, but I like having separate rolls and then tied all together with the tump line running through the top blanket. Now, what determines the top blanket? Well, this blanket is heavier with the oilcloth attached to it. So that gravity is going to do its job of keeping that in place. And all we got to do, we can sling it over that shoulder if we want to. We can put it on our forehead, or this is another good way of carrying it, put it across our shoulders. And if you do it this way, this is the most comfortable way of carrying around a bedroll. So in this configuration, as you can see, it hangs down, it doesn't pull down on my back, and it actually kind of rests on my lumbar region. So it actually kind of almost just supports itself hanging off of my low back. So this is the way that I like carrying around a bedroll. Now, before we finish today, I'd like for us to keep a couple things in mind. Number one, you guys do your own research, do your own practice, get out in the field, hike with that gear on. You don't have to hike with the gun, just go to your local park, take that knapsack, the haversack, the snapsack, experiment on your own and figure out what setup works for you. And secondly, and most important of all, learn more so you can carry less. Learn those traditional woodcraft and woodsman skills. Learn how to use those simple pieces of gear the most effectively so you don't break your back with carrying everything you might possibly need. Everyone, thank you so much for liking, for commenting, for subscribing, and stay tuned for a lot more content coming soon. Spring and summer are just a couple months away, and we've got a lot of really fantastic content coming your way. Everyone, thank you so much and have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on down the trail in the next video.